Hey guys, thank you for stopping by at Beginner's Mind with that fig tree. In this episode, I chat with Siew Ting. Siew Ting has been awarded Asia's most influential and purposeful CMO several times. So here we write a CMO's playbook through her journey with companies like HP, DHO, Unilever and Mars. You can find more of it in her book, Building Brands with Soul. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and do follow us for more. Thank you, Siew Ting, giving time. You've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much for coming down.
Welcome.
I think this is interesting. One thing which struck me in your profile. I've talked to many CMOs, and they just come across as CMOs. But in your profile, I came across as transformational CMOs. What is a transformational CMO?
Well, I think there are many types of CMOs, right? And then I go back to what I'm really good at, because I'm a firm believer that you focus on your strengths, right? And I think what I'm really good at through my decades of being a CMO is really good at transformation. And what do I mean by transformation? Transformation basically means I'm usually quite comfortable in position whereby I help the business reimagine the brand, the business, and also the organization, and create profitable growth. But I do it in a way that is led through human centricity. So that's my own definition of transformation growth. And why do I think transformation is important? Because there's a lot of perceptions about the role of marketing and the marketing function being a cost function.
Yeah.
Whereas I firmly believe, having 2 decades of experience leading CPG brands, that marketing as a role in the C-suite is actually not a cost function. It's really a growth engine.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But it's how do you navigate through these doubts? I mean, we talked before as well. Like I think sometimes the CMOs, they're finding it difficult to find a seat on the table or part of the board. There is certain data as well there.
Well, I think one of the questions that you had was, what was my biggest aha when I started becoming a CMO? The biggest aha was that I started realizing that being a CMO, besides being really good at your marketing craft, the other skill set that you need to have is stakeholder manager.
Okay.
So you almost need to be very, very comfortable being an integrator, being an influencer. And for me, that's really important. But I do it in a way which is through the customer voice, because the customer voice is literally giving the power to the marketing leader or the CMO on binding everyone through the organization in itself. And I find that that's really important. Second piece, going back to the question, how do you navigate that? Often than not, through the experience I had, it's having an intentional storytelling internally is actually more important than the external front. Because it buys you freedom, it buys you commitment to really do the things you want to do, the impact around what you stand for in terms of the brand and the business and the teams that you impact on. Yeah.
You have any specific example there of?
Yeah, I think the great example would be when I was recruited to HP 7 years ago as the Asia Pac CMO. The brief, I joined them because of the brief, and the brief was literally saying, hey, you have a business seat, but you need to earn the business seat. And marketing perception then, when I first joined them, was seen more as a coloring department. Meaning it's more like it's a cost line on the P&L. We produces ads and brochures and events. So that was my first 30 days when I joined the company, and the biggest aha that I had when I started interviewing the stakeholders. So for me, that was quite a culture shock. Coming from, prior to that, CPG companies as marketing is you are like the general managers. You own the P&L. Everybody understands brand. Everybody understands the power of marketing. Everybody understands why you need to invest in marketing. So because of the first 30 days when I went around talking to different stakeholders and interviewing them, and also through the conversations, I start realizing what are they expecting marketing to do, which is quite simple. One, develop the brand. Now you have a global brand. How do you make it relevant to Asia and different parts of Asia? So that's one. Second, they wanted to make sure that your marketing programs drive impact. So then what was very natural for me is to demonstrate impact, which is to bring in marketing measurement frameworks and accountability into it. And then the third area, which I found was a missing gap when I went around the organization, was nobody was owning the customer voice. HP was very good at product innovation, and then they just go to market. So those two were their strong competitive advantage, but nobody was owning the customer voice. So I decided that given what I'm really good at in customers, which is to lead from the front in terms of the customer voice, and I start that with strategy. So basically looking at customer segmentation, where the segments are, where the high potential growth is, and then I work with the CEO, the president of Asia, to say, hey, we should invest in this market. What's the focus on segments, and actually help influence strategy up front. So with that buy me freedom. So that's one thing. The second piece was also I had a manifesto which I developed through the team.
CMO manifesto.
Which is what does marketing stands for in HP. So my team co-created a manifesto, and we said we wanted to be the trusted partner that drive brand impact by leading the customer voice. And I came up with a framework, quite simple, because people remember frameworks of verbatims, right? So I came up with a framework called MAGIC.
Okay.
So MAGIC basically stands for M, mastery of customer. A stands for agility. G stands for growth mindset. I stands for integration, because in HP, 4 Ps are across 3 functions. So we serve to be the role to integrate the 4 Ps. And then C stands for customer centricity in that perspective. So that become the guiding narrative and the conversation internally with stakeholders, but also something that I hold my team accountable to. That means when they deliver traits of MAGIC, tick the box. I recognize their efforts. When people derail from that, that's where coaching starts coming into play. Yeah. And that became very powerful, actually.
Because they have something to look up to.
They have something to look up to, but also from a positioning standpoint within the organization to other stakeholders, they were very clear. So what is marketing value add? What do they do? And it became a narrative that, the president, the CEO talks about it quite often.
So you came up with this framework after having a discussion with the stakeholders, and then they knew what is needed.
Yes. So I spent my first 100 days listening quite a lot, interviewing the stakeholders. And then I had my hypothesis. And then I also did co-create with some key peers and stakeholders on doing that. But what I'm going back to what I said earlier on, it's the intentional internal marketing. It's actually positioning yourself, and it's actually the must do for all CMOs when they go into a new role.
That's quite a smart way to do it. Yeah. It makes sense. And aha moment you talked about as a journey in your journey, but what's the challenge? What's the biggest challenge which kind of frustrated you and which kind of almost on the gave you a bit of sleepless night? What's going on? I
think what that gets me really challenged even till now, because I was fighting this for last 7-8 years, and even till now it still hasn't changed, was this whole constant challenge on short-term impact versus long-term growth. So there is no lack of models. There's this, and then even with AI and data analytics now, there's tons of marketing measurement models available. And even with AI, you readily could prove the return on investment. But the conversation within marketing community and also within the C-suite is all about short-term versus long-term. And we know, we have seen lots of case studies and tons of academicians through Les Bennett and Aubrey Brand has written about the fact that if you don't invest in the brand, it comes back to bite you. But unfortunately, somehow within the marketing community, I feel there's still lack of belief. I remember, someone saying that in the 80s, it was how brand become very important is because of the short-term focus. And then brand equity and the focus on brand equity came in on that. But the interesting thing is now we're going through the same phase of short-termism, whereby every single dollar spent on marketing is about immediate return on investments.
But how do you counter this?
Which is not possible. Which is why the narrative and actually having a strong alliance with the CFO and the CEO up front is very critical. And I think one way to really counter that is to link brand to pricing. Ability to deliver sustainable pricing power.
And how, I think that's a pretty important point of sustainable pricing power, because there are brands who do it with less marketing also. I don't know how much Apple spends really. I don't know. Maybe I need to research, because they have so much pricing power. They're coming out iPhone 16, 17, and the damn price is so high. What's your playbook of?
My playbook is really linking it up front. So linking it up front and actually using brand as a sustainable pricing power up front with CFO and actually education and conversation with the C-suite and the board up front is actually something that the CMO needs to do.
But how did you ensure that what activities did you undertake to ensure that the brand has a sustainable?
So it's a measurement. So it's a measurement system. So one of the key things that I always do is to make sure that the equity measurement is linked to a scorecard. Not only the part of business scorecard. And then if possible, in CPG pricing is a little bit easier. In tech, I think slightly more complex. If you link it to pricing impact, that will be even a greater. Yeah. So I think that upfront and actually educating the C-suite about what does the power of brand do, and almost dump it down and really explaining what brand comes through. And you will find that for those general managers who have good business acumen sense and the CEOs, often than not, when you go through that journey of education, they get it. They get it. So really not going to short-term ROI upfront, but really doing that is going to buy you more freedom. And then if people are not convinced, then you might have to create a use case to demonstrate with brand, without brand, what would that impact as a way in. So that's kind of like my playbook of earning a business seat.
Yeah, because one thing which I've seen, Siew Ting, and you are industry aware and you would know more than me, is that the progression to CEO, I think sometimes CFOs are being considered for the CEO positions, but the CMOs are not being considered for the CEO position. Have you noticed that?
Yes. And part of it is also my own journey in that perspective, and in data, as we were chatting just now, in data is quite shocking. As I get into learning about board governance and board stuff globally, the average number is about 3.9 to 4% of CMOs get into board roles. I think part of that is driven by the marketing community itself, because we tend to be seen as those a craft that is might be coming up with the shinier stuff versus a craft that is about delivering business impact. But if you go back to the fundamentals of marketing, it hasn't changed. I think even till now it hasn't changed. The brand actually in the P&L is actually an intangible asset.
It's true.
It's an intangible asset, but how do you elevate that intangible asset in a way that people understands it and become a power of that, is a really important task of a marketing leader and a CMO. That's my perspective.
No, true. I mean, I'm kind of aligned on that. But I think let's talk a little bit more about, your campaigns. I mean, you're a well-decorated CMO. I mean, so many awards, and what was? I think we'll get into the individual campaigns, but let's overarching theme. What is one central factor which led to the success of these campaigns? Various campaigns through Diageo, through HP, through Smirnoff, and wherever. What was the key central reason?
I think the key central thing will be music to your ears because you're an insight expert.
Okay.
It's really finding a penetrating human insight or attention that the brand could play to address to. And that tension will change according to times, right? And it will change according to cultural situation. What differentiates the great campaigns I did and also great campaigns I did is basically this factor. And then is about the bonus of the brand on really having that, a right to win, and the bonus of the execution on addressing this tension head on and orchestrate a plan that meets that needs.
Right execution.
Yeah. And I think what's making us very our craft of marketing tougher now with technology is attention.
Attention, yeah, true.
With all the complexities on technology and the way media, right? So that makes it even important if your campaign is rooted on a great cultural human tension, and the idea it's so bold and differentiated that helps you cut through the clutter, then you have a winner.
Yeah. Very well said. Let's talk specific Diageo. Reframing of Johnny Walker among Gen Z. Gen Z is a hot topic.
Now it's Gen Alpha.
Still, Gen Alpha, yes. I mean, but there are still some companies which are stuck on Gen Z. And so, how did you do that? What was the path changing inside there, or how did you move things around?
Two insights that we found out, right? That it was about 10 years ago when I was in China. A bit of a context: Johnny Walker was the challenger brand, number 2, and then we did a lot of consumer immersion, and we realized that the perception of the brand is seen as an old man's brand. So what my father would drink.
Okay.
So that's a context. Second was that people don't really understand how to drink whiskey. Okay. So during that time, due to the nearest competitor.
It's a big Baiju market though.
Yeah, it was Baiju market. International spirit is coming up, but they were just mixing with green tea. So nobody understand nobody understand the whiskey culture, the heritage of Scotland, the craft put behind it. So we did a lot of consumer immersion, and then obviously we looked at external trends, we looked at where China was progressing, and then we found two insights. One is more towards the segment. One is really more towards the brand. We found that actually the Gen Z think 10 years ago, they want to be part of the nation progress. Okay. So that was the start of Weibo. So there was a lot of, and also lots of influencer. So there were a lot of, national pride. They want to be part of a conversation. So that was a core insight, one insight. The second insight, we found that, Chinese had a lot of disposable incomes, from the young Gen Z to the higher millennials, in essence. They were looking at investing in luxury brands and that could give them a badge and to show that they're in the know. So we said, actually, that's an opportunity, right? So my task was to really premiumize the brand. Okay. It was seen as an old man's brand. It's seen as more like a masstige brand. Okay. We didn't have Johnny Walker Blue. We didn't have, it's not present there. It was pretty small. So my task was, number one, to make the brand cool, and to also make the brand mean something. So what does keep walking mean? Okay. Second is to move it up the profitable, the premiumization chain.
Which is very difficult.
Yeah. So we did two things. One, we came out with a Keep Walking campaign that, that really we call it words of progress in Chinese. And basically it told 12 stories of the nation progressives on their own progress stories. And we told it in a very raw form. And we told it through a 3 minutes documentary film, which basically kickstart the whole process. And then it was launched digitally in the ecosystem. We had influencers, very provocative influencers, part of the conversation. So it tipped. We got the tension, and then we got all the Gen Z being part of a conversation. So they start recognizing what Keep Walking means to them from a cultural standpoint. And then it became a platform. So platform that lasted 3-4 years. So that was one thing. We made the brand relevant and make Keep Walking relevant.
In the cultural context.
In the cultural context. The second piece was really bringing whiskey culture in. Obviously, we started focusing on Johnnie Walker Blue, Johnnie Walker Gold. We told the stories about them, and we were very focused on geographic concentration and channels. We got into gifting occasions. We got into traditional on-trade versus just the bars itself from a distribution standpoint. And then we came out with one very bold idea, which was, borrowing from the luxury brands and the Nike, which have their Nike stores, Louis Vuitton stores. And then I had the idea, say, hey, what if I bring the whiskey experience I had in Scotland, whereby I was with the master blender, they taught me how the whiskey, that whole artistic culture, but I modernize it in a way that is luxurious.
Chinese love that.
And we launched a Johnnie Walker House. And then the Johnnie Walker House was an exclusive experience. It was an invite-only experience. And in the house, we also sell limited editions that cost really, really expensive, that the high net worth people want to buy. They get to personalize their own cask. So it became an experience, and it became a cultural phenomenon too. And that become actually category and industry leading. So thereafter, a lot of other players copied this idea.
I think it's pretty fascinating the way it was done, actually. Yeah. It's a tough market to crack. I've lived in China for 6 years, and it's a tough market to crack.
But when you cracked it, it's very fulfilling.
It's very fulfilling. Yeah. It's a challenge, actually. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff because China was not a coffee market, and Starbucks was successful there. Yes. So that was also, when I was there, that was really being talked about as a case study, that in a tea drinking market, Starbucks came and became not successful. It's a different thing now. Yes. Now they're having a tough time, but that time Starbucks will have the crowd like 20 people will be lining up to buy a coffee there. Yeah. That was the time. Yeah. Now I think from Diageo, let's move to HP. Your I think looking at the marketing prowess in the world of technology, HP Oman gaming success. How did you kind of achieve that, and how your learnings funneled from one industry to another?
I think the difference between tech and alcohol, I think tech enabled me to assess community much faster in itself, and and for Oman Gaming, the learnings actually started in China too. But the challenge of the use case that I talk about in my book was in Korea, in essence. And again, no magic, really simple, going back to really looking for a cultural, tension that we could really disrupt. Again, a bit of a context, Korea gaming worldwide, it's number 3 in terms of number of people gaming PC. But the worldwide team decided to invest in Korea because of that potential. But the brand is number 9. So nobody knows. Nobody know what.
Who knows number 9? Yeah.
Oman is, right? And our task was to grow it to number 1 in 3 years.
Ambitious.
So that was the internal target. Unlike in CPG, we don't own the P&L. The category teams own the P&L. But I did something very different, which is to lead from the front with my team. And we said, hey, I have a team of people who really understand 4Ps, and say, hey, let's just lead from the front. So the two things that we did, one is, while we don't own 4Ps, we try to integrate 4Ps together. And we realized the insight, the gamers really wanted product and services. So it was ecosystem play. The second insight also was gamers operate in a community. So finding ways to get into their community, understanding their community is very important. And in China, we operate in that model. So there was a lot of learnings around that. And then the third piece, which is I'm number 9. Nobody cares about Omen. Nobody knows Omen. So how do I disrupt and be
the number one?
Be the number one. Yeah. And then again, we went back to consumer work, and then we found a societal tension. And actually, we were pretty bold in challenging the societal tension. And the insight was, in Korea, everything is kind of not fair. Okay. How you grow, how you're perceived is really based on the kind of family you're born into. Okay. That's why cosmetic surgeries is huge, in itself. But in the gaming world, people want to be, acknowledge that how good they are is due to their skills. Okay. So we challenge this societal tension with a campaign up front. Okay. And the campaign talks quite boldly about, hey, we don't care about which family you're born in or what spoon you come with, which school you come from. In gaming, it's all about fair play. Wow. Yeah. And that idea
resonated.
It's very bold, resonated. And then we took this idea by sponsoring an emerging gaming team called T1 and Faker, who is now the leading gaming team. And we told their stories in the second year. So it was a very bold idea. And I remember when we were selling this to the MD of Korea. He's a Korean. He has to stand up and talk about this. We had lots of objection around it because it shows
it's controversial.
It's controversial, and it reflects on him as an individual in the society itself. So we took a lot of convincing. But the other magic which I learned from this journey was igniting belief inside out. So my team played a very critical role on galvanizing people behind the brand. So everybody from the sales team to the distributor to everyone were united behind this brand. And that's why we could rose from number 9 to number 1 in such a short time. Yeah.
How much was that time?
18 months.
Wow, that's not bad. That's really good, actually. Pretty impressive story. But in both, you took some bold bets.
Big bold bets.
Yeah. Without that, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. It was. I think the Korean MD was bold. I mean, we convinced him. We had another equivalent story in Japan, but slightly different, and it was hard to convince the Japanese MD. Okay. But it was bold bet. It was a lot of positioning. It was a lot of different ways of stakeholder influencer. I had to get my president of Asia aligned to that too.
No doubt you won so many awards.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, no, see, I think a month ago I was in Dublin and then visited Guinness. And 13 years ago, also I visited Guinness. So this is my second visit to Guinness Brewery, and I saw that immersion was totally different. Consumer immersion was changed. It was fascinating this time compared to what I saw. Now, Guinness in Asia, I think you worked on it. What is it? Look, I'm a beer drinker, but not a Guinness drinker here. Yeah. And I didn't even know how to drink Guinness and enjoy Guinness till I took this tour this time, because they told us how to gulp it and all the stuff. And how was it received in Asia, your time, and what was relevant work? How did you localize the brand?
It was almost 10 years ago. I was heading Southeast Asia then, and the core markets in for Guinness was Singapore, Indonesia. Those were the 2 key markets, and Malaysia. So in Southeast Asia, those were the core markets. But the core users are more middle-aged and above. you know, those uncles that you see in the coffee shops,
Okay.
and they're not drinking draft.
Okay.
They're drinking stout,
Okay.
which is a harder version.
It's a harder version.
So that I would say that was a context for Singapore and Malaysia.
Okay.
In Indonesia, it's slightly different. You have a bit of the old, but you also have emerging younger consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Guinness brand is very entrenched because it's been around through many years, and Guinness from a brand positioning standpoint is very well known.
Yeah.
But the challenge was then, obviously during that time and even till now, there was a lot of new beers, lager. So how do we compete with the lighter version and the lager? We were not attractive to the younger Gen Z consumers again. So different markets have different approach.
Okay.
Like Singapore, Malaysia, we go through different approach of rituals and drinking, and cultural relevance and marketing campaign. And also we started bringing in the draft version, which is the lighter, which is maybe something you experience in Dublin, the lighter version of drinking.
It must be lighter, yeah.
Yeah. I think in Indonesia, what I remember was the most memorable one, which is what makes brands, companies like Diageo so amazing, was they really respect local cultural nuances. So in Indonesia, we found that the younger consumers, because of cultural reason, at certain time of the day, because of religion, they can't go for hardcore, alcohol.
Okay. Yeah, Muslim.
Yeah. So we initiated a product innovation called Guinness Zero.
Okay.
And that was actually now is across the world.
Zero now is common. That I didn't hear of zero 10 years ago.
Yeah. So we came out with Guinness Zero in order to meet this core group of consumers. It was originated from Southeast Asia with Indonesia as the key lead market. And I think it did quite well when it was launched. And now I believe it's a global idea. But my learning is again, you can be a global brand, but then you need to have the local cultural relevance. And companies like Diageo was great because they empowered us in the market to really understand that, and we can come up with ideas that really meets the cultural relevance. Yeah.
Do you think that the lot of companies understand this, the global, local, or I still see a lot of gap?
I see a lot of gap. I still see a lot of gap. But then the interesting thing is, given social media and also where the geographic situation is, we're facing big globalization, but we're seeing a lot of nationalism happening. So I feel that the global and the local nuance, getting the mix right, needs to be even more critical now.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I think one thing which I found interesting was that you talked about chasing cultural tensions and not trends. And we go and present everywhere, and I think everybody is happy with trends.
Oh, really? Tell me more. I was very intrigued by that.
No, so we go whenever we are with any market here, or I think everybody wants to ride a trend. Okay, this is that, and that's what they're talking about, and because it helps them sell the idea internally. Because when they go, like it's because I think it's not bold by that. It's not extra bold, but it's something which is accepted, and then they want to ride on it, and the cultural tension one is, I think very few people buy into it, but the trends we found far more acceptable and easy to sell. But your statement is just opposite to it.
Oh, interesting. No, I think what I'm trying to say, I think you need to be aware of trends. Yeah. You need to be aware of what's going on, and trends gives you potential creativity around it. But the brand has to answer the tension in order to be of meaning on whatever products or services or campaigns that serve a meaning to attention. So the trend, I'm not saying that you don't look at trends. You look at trends, but you look at trends as inspiration of ideas. But if you just chase a trend, but the brand has no meaning on the role it plays to the trend, then you're just another Me Too. That's my point of view. I mean, then you're like, so what? So what does this brand place?
If you're just a follower, then
You're just a follower. Then so what does the brand stands for? And what role does it have to play? Which is why tension for me is so critical, because tensions allow you to build brands and business that stands the testament of time. Yeah.
True. So does that, like, is it part of building that endearing soulful brand?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. So I had in my book I talk about 5 principles, and they're not magic. They're just through years of working with so many global brands and working with so many great marketing leaders. I came up with my 5 principles. One of them is it has to be rooted on a great human truth. Great brands have to be rooted on a universal human truth. Second, it has to be a great purpose, anchored on a great purpose. And then the third piece is this purpose has to constantly keep reinventing itself. It has to stay relevant with times, and that's where trends comes in. But the choice of deciding on what trend to follow becomes the
But you got to follow trend in your own way.
correct, the craft of the marketeer. And then the fourth thing for me is very important in the brand is consistency on how you show up. Not only just your visual identity, the colors, the smell, everything, the personality has to be so consistent. And then last piece, which is something I find is quite hard to do, but I think it's very important. It's really great brands of soul are built from a belief inside out.
Okay. Agree with that. On board with that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Now, I think we talked about Gen Z quite a bit, and I have Gen Z at my home, and I'm having tough time occasionally. So, and a lot of rhetoric about authenticity, a lot of rhetoric about purpose. How do you buy into it from marketing point of view?
Yeah, I think so. Well, what do you think? I'm very curious, Raji. What do you think?
No, I think they talk this, but I don't know whether they follow this or no.
I don't think. Yeah, you're right. Whether it translates into purchase intention, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe it does, but I think generally authenticity is key, right? And especially in the world that we live in now, and the Gen Z and even the Gen Alpha is going to be worse. They live in a world that is all driven by technology, and maybe that's why they want authentic connections and authentic experience. So I do buy into that.
Okay.
And I believe that you have to stand for something, need to be authentic. I think it's given now. And because of social media and the way things spread now, and even with AI, and I think AI is going to challenge marketeers to be even more authentic. So the way you market is no longer push, right? The way you market is you have to show up through your real lived experience, because ChatGPT now works on inputs from reviews from Reddit. These are lived experience and testimonials, and not just in paid advertising. So the implication to brands is that you need to be very, very clear on what you stand for, and you need to be very consistent. That part needs to be right before you democratize this to local teams. Yeah.
I mean, my question is, or my thinking is that my time, I mean, I'm 50 over now. When I was a Gen Z, I don't even remember what mattered for me so much. But I'm just, from an experience point of view, does authenticity and purpose matter for Gen Z now much more than what it mattered Gen Z 20, 30 years ago? Do you see that?
I think it mattered more now.
Okay.
I mean, my daughter is not Gen Z, she's Gen Alpha.
Okay.
And when I wrote my book, Building Brands with Soul, and I asked her, so what is a good brand? You know what she said to me? She said, oh, a good brand with soul means it's got good vibes.
Okay.
And then I asked her, what do you mean by vibes? Feelings, emotions that connects with me. And then dig further. I think, what do you mean? Because I like that, what that brand do. I mean, they articulate in their own language, but actually it's literally saying it has to be authentic, it has to be purposeful, it has to create an emotion that connect with them, which is quite simple. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. Now, uh, this I think I saw your article on Labubu. It's I can't understand this personally. What strange phenomena is this, and why would and I saw that day I was somewhere and somebody was carrying Labubu bag and was flaunting it. What do you make out of this phenomena? Why is it successful?
I can't understand it too because I don't fall into that group of people who collect it, and I thought it's going to be a fad that's gone. But recently I was in Seoul and was in the Pop Mart, and I was just shocked by the fact that people were all still queuing up. I think what the Boo Boo hit on was this whole cultural human truth,
Okay.
which is, ugly is the new fashion, right? It's like having an ugly toy.
Yeah.
It's actually answering to some of the human tension that they have. And I think the other thing that Labubu, a Pop Mart got into is the whole excitement, the reveal of having a blind box. People get so excited, and the number of videos you see online on people just opening up the box and having that thrill on what they get, you get that fascinated everywhere. Like I personally have seen 60 years old females getting excited over Labubu and collecting Labubu, and it cuts through cultures from US to Western worlds to Asia. I couldn't understand that, but I think it's rooted on that insight that I end up trying to derive.
You as a marketer?
Initially I was skeptical.
Okay.
To be really frank, I was like, is that another fad? And is that one of those Chinese fad that's coming through? But then as I start analyzing it and I dig further and I talk to more consumers on why they're doing that, I think it's going back to what we said, the cultural, the human truth they gather. Somebody identified it, and then they popularized it with very smart go-to-market strategies.
Okay. But the good jeans became controversial.
Yes. Because the good genes, what do you think the human truth is? I think the human truth comes very much from a certain geography standpoint. It's not one that travels across many countries, and even within US is controversial, which is why maybe it had a bit of a backlash in that sense.
I think we talked about these brands, but our own backyard, Singapore. I'm a local now.
You're local. Okay.
20 years ago, I became local, so this is my home. And what do you think of Singapore as a brand, as a marketer? Are you fascinated by it?
I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also disappointed.
Really?
Mm.
What is that?
I think we have much more soul, but we didn't tell our story.
Okay.
I think the days when the Singapore brand were very high was somewhat during the Lee Kuan Yew time, right? Because Lee Kuan Yew is kind of like the salesman, the godfather. Yeah. He creates this whole future from nothing up to something, and we are known for being green, efficient, the first in everything. And then since
kind of mini miracle.
Yeah, and since he passed on, I felt that, without going too controversial, I felt that the brand became a bit generic, became a bit more safe.
Safe, yeah.
I know the STB, they had their last campaign. I can't remember the tagline. Passion.
2018 or something. I don't even. I don't
can't remember. Yeah, like passion made impossible. Passion made possible. Yeah. And then I don't recall what the brand stands for now. So as a Singaporean, I think we have a lot to offer, and we have a lot of, but I think now if I'm the Singapore government or the STB, I think this is the time to reframe the brand. Given we have a new regime of leadership, given the world is changing quite. So what's our role to play now, right? Besides being the efficient and everything, I think the Singapore brand is looking at being part of tech now, being part of the sustainability conversation, but I think it's missing its soul a little bit.
So if you were a CMO, you'll recreate that part and you'll work on that.
Because people only remember one thing, and people remember the one thing really well. I think I'm feeling that we're a little bit like amalgamation of everything now. We need some repositioning or sharpening.
This is a great thing you just said, that people remember one thing.
Yes.
This is not easy to understand, because we have done so much of work on this, that where marketers are hell bent on putting 5 messages in a damn ad, and that never works. So this is a very,
But to be frank, I have to say it's not easy.
it's not easy.
Yeah, because often than not, you are in a room whereby you have to defend the brand, and then you have 50 other people who are not marketers telling you what to do. So you need very strong personal anchor, and to be really clear what you stand for. I mean, I have been in positions that I've been swayed to different roles and a different stance, and then I regret some of those decisions. So it's not easy. It's not easy.
I understand
Yeah.
that. Now, this Singapore brands, like the one is at one end we talked about a country, but on the other end, like we do we have path-breaking brands? Like for example, Ireland is a 5 million population, right? They have Guinness, okay, it's 200 years, 300 years old brand. Switzerland has watches. What's missing? I mean, SIA is big, but SIA is government.
The only brand, the only brand that comes top of mind to me was SIA.
Yeah. That's what I think my team also told me, SIA.
Yeah. We have other emerging brands, but I don't think those brands really are leading edge in their field. Like we have DBS, but people don't really know what DBS is.
Well, it's anyway the government. All I'm saying in terms of the private, I mean, Guinness was the homegrown, right?
So sorry, your question is.
My question is that why is it not happening?
I still feel it goes back to your point, that there's job to be done within the SMEs and the government organizations on really educating senior stakeholders on the importance of brand. Okay. Yeah.
But there are no big companies. For example, there was creative ones. I mean, I don't know whether I'm able to communicate myself clearly. There was creative ones, yeah, but it lost its way, and then we have nothing to stand for in terms of, and is this simply because that there is a knowledge of how to build a brand is missing, or is it other structural issues?
I don't think it's structural issues. I really think it's not knowledge of really appreciating the importance of brand. Okay. And having more people at the board level that really understands this. Because I was, without mentioning names, about a year ago, I was having an interesting conversation with a board member, a very senior board member that sits on the few Singapore listed board. Okay. He was telling me that very few people at the level understand the importance of marketing and importance of brand. Oh. But he himself was a CFO by training, okay, and he appreciates the power of brand. Okay. But there's very few like him. Okay. After that, I met a lot of other people. Nobody really appreciates what marketing does, and how marketing's drive impact and the power of brand that positions the brand quite differently. So I think there's a lot of job to be done.
I think I'll come to the last section, and it's a section which is a very puzzling section, but which is important also. It's like AI is like, we cannot live with we are breathing AI, Now, AI would replace doctors, like, as I said, Elon just said but will it replace marketers also?
I believe to the camp that it will not.
Okay, and why is that?
Because if you go back to the basics of marketing, marketing is really about finding that penetrating human insight that change perceptions, right? And that itself is an art. It's not a science, right? And how much the LLM work will be dependent on what the human puts inside to perfect it. So the judgment, I look back my career, the main judgment, the main most critical decision moments that I had on making certain decisions on the brand that might make or break my career, they may be data backed, but in the end, it was gut call. It was still a gut call. So I feel that won't change because that's the craft of marketing. But having said that, marketeers need to be savvy with AI. They need to use AI. The craft needs to evolve with AI, and how AI can help being a great partner. But I don't think it will replace marketing function. It might
Shrink it or
there might be some re-engineering. Okay. Meaning I believe that the craft of marketing with AI coming on board now is no longer about the middle side of things can be delegated to AI, like content with itself, but the upstream work
decision making.
like customer insights, brand strategy, 4-piece strategy, talking to stakeholders, influencing, those can't be replaced. Which means that marketers not only need to be very good with tech, but they need to become masters of their craft. And also they need to become great influencers. So it might force the marketing function might come down that you might have just the best marketers who are really good at craft, because sometimes within the marketing field there might be communicators, right? Yeah. People who come from advertising background, they're really good at that, the demand, the production of content. Yeah. But actually the great marketeers that will stay would be the ones that turn customer insight into business growth. Your general manager, your business leaders. So that's how I'm predicting it. But how to get there and the path to getting there, I'm not sure.
I can say it's very difficult because everything is moving at a pace which nobody knows. And now this brings me to another question that let's say if my daughter is studying, for example, or my son is going to school and wants to become a marketeer. What's your advice like for a budding marketeer? What should they focus on? What should they learn?
I think they should be really good with the science part of that. I would think maybe interesting thing, they might have a degree in engineering or degree in some science stuff.
Really?
Hang on, I'm not there yet. Yeah. But then maybe they should also develop the humanitarian side of things. Okay. Because I read an article by World Economic Forum, and they said that in the future, the occupations that exist that will thrive really well is where there is humanitarian aspects of things and also judgment call in itself. So I think what will happen is it's going to be very common that we have an engineer, or we have a accountant. From a technical skill standpoint, it's an entry level, but the differentiation will be more the soft side of things. So I would still encourage my daughter to, I mean, if she wants to be marketing, though she's not expressing any interest now, yes, but really develop and differentiate yourself from the soft side of things, which is going to make them stand out. Yeah.
And you've such an experience with CPG world. Why the brands are struggling? Why all the CPG brands I see sad stories, sobbing stories, most of them?
I would say that a lot of the companies, unfortunately, the leadership's been run by, financials. It's more like financials run by the brands are run on the spreadsheet. Okay. In that perspective, and a lot of the board people who sit on the board some of them might come from activist background, so they might not understand the power of brand. As a result, it's forcing a lot of short-termism, which is sad actually. Mm-hmm. Which is sad in itself, because you're seeing some big CPG brands, the brands and the culture might be eroded, and then, as we know, if you start investing in a brand, it will take you even more investments and more time to get back on the investments. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this short-termism might go away soon. Okay. But I really don't know where would this go away. And I think my own personal wish is more marketers are brave enough to stick to their guns on, leading from the front on educating the boards and the C-suites on the importance of what the craft is, the power of brand building itself, which is why I wrote, part of the reason is why I wrote that book. Yeah.
But to be fair, and this is the closing note, that a lot of these companies I see, when I was the earlier company, we'll have the world's most valuable brands. Then we'll have Microsoft, we have Nvidia, we have Teslas of the world. Tesla has zero ad spend. Now, I mean, is that thinking influencing CPGs also, that these people are not really into marketing? How these brands have grown so much without a dime of, or without much spend on marketing?
They might not be doing brand advertising, but I feel that a lot of this I'm not sure about Tesla, but I would say at least Microsoft and Google, the brand lives in the culture, meaning the brand purpose is from the top and then influences how the product side delivers. I mean, in technology, yes, the product and the technology is the first touch points, right? And then thereafter, the differentiation comes from the brand itself. But I have been in organizations like HP whereby brand manifests itself not just through a campaign, which is why some marketers got it wrong. They there's this period where there was purpose, right? Yeah. And then when purpose started getting very popular, everybody started doing a purpose campaign, another CSR campaign. But for me, I don't think purpose comes through a campaign. Yeah. Purpose manifests itself through the operating mode and the culture, the products, the employees, and everything. And I think in these companies, the brand purpose lives through that. And the product is a first point of manifestation of the brands. They might not have advertising, but then at some stage they might do that. I mean, the interesting thing is to watch what OpenAI would do, because they had their first CMO.
Oh, they have had?
Yeah, they had a global first CMO, and then recently they had their first campaign.
Yeah, that one I saw on the LinkedIn. That one I saw.
Yeah, because no matter what, the technology will be commoditized. It's just a matter of who comes faster, right? Then the brand plays a critical role to that.
I think on that note, we'll finish it. But thank you so much. It was so enlightening. I learned so much while talking to you. And
thank you.
I'm not surprised you won so many awards. You're so clear about what to do and how to do. So
no, I'm a bit bold in some of my thinking. So
yeah. No, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv.